You are listening to Eastman's Flycast, an adventure fly fishing specific podcast covering travel, tactics, and next level insight. Now your host, Brian Barney. You are listening to Eastman's Flycast, an adventure fly fishing specific podcast covering travel, tactics, and next level insight. Now your host, Brian Barney.
Hey, what's happening, guys? Got a brand new Eastman's Flycast for you. So this week I have back on one of my most popular guests, Dillon Ness. So me and Dillon, we've become buddies out here over the last couple years, and he came out and stayed at the house for a couple days, and we went fishing big Dries. We were throwing salmon flies. So this is after the first day of fishing, before the second day of fishing. And this information is pertinent right now as the hoppers are just going off. Hoppers all over. It seems like every step I take out in the dry grass, 100 of them jump up. And I've sure been seeing some of my guide buddies and some pictures across my feed of just giant brown trout eating those hoppers. I've been out a couple times, haven't quite hit it right. I've just been so busy with hunting season and work and things of that nature, but I did get Dad out, and I've definitely got some takes and caught some fish off hoppers, but I just haven't hit it right or found that next level brown. But this is just a great conversation for right now, as I just love fishing hoppers. I love fishing these big Dries. Me and Dillon had an absolute riot. So this is after the first day. We got into the hatch and to some fish, and then second day we had a really good plan and put ourselves just in the middle of the hatch, and it was some of the best fishing I saw. It was so funny. We were floating down the river, and we threw Dries for quite a while, and we were ahead of the hatch. And you'll hear us talk about our strategy and things. But we were ahead of the hatch, and so we started throwing streamers and picking up a few fish. And then we got into the hatch, and they were flying all over. And I had Dillon in the front, and he was using this bug, and we were going down. And, man, I mean, there was bugs landing on the water, and we just couldn't get them to eat that well. And so we were pulled off, and this guy floats down in this boat, and he looks over at us and he goes, "Oh, you guys are killing them on those Dries." And we just kind of gave the quick answer, "Yeah." And then I thought about it. I said, "No." I said, the hatch is all over. Bugs are landing, but we can't get them to eat them. And this guy looks over and he goes, "Oh, man, we're killing them, bro." And he goes, "Yeah, we're using the water walker, And he was using a different dry fly pattern. And I have my patterns I like. But Dillon had a bunch of patterns and trying different things, and we could not get him to eat Dillon's pattern. And the minute we switched to a water walker, we started killing him and killed him the rest of the float, But it's kind of humbling, A lot of times I'm that guy that's getting them, that's floating by and got it figured out. And that day, I did not. I was humbled on my own river, and then have a guy come by and go, "Yeah, we're just killing him, bro." Me and Dillon laughed so hard over that. It was so funny and so humbling. But I had such a great time with this guy. A ton of laughs. My stomach hurt after fishing with him, and it's just a great podcast. He's a great guy, so I really enjoyed it. You guys will too. We'll get this thing started off. I want to thank Eastmans for all their support on this podcast. I've got my other hunting-specific podcast, Eastman's Elevated, that's doing really good right now. I just did a solo episode talking about early season motivation, and just got back from a big Nevada trip where I arrowed a really nice buck out there. Going to do a Nevada recap hunt. I just got some great podcasts coming up. Bert Soren from Soren X. He got... To talk to him about strength training, just made for this awesome podcast. So that'll be coming out here this week, the same as this episode, or last week. I can't keep them straight anymore, but it's coming out soon. It's a really good podcast. I've got one with Dan Baccar. He killed his biggest bull last year. And I've also got one coming up here on Flycast with Dan Baccar. He's been killing it there in Wyoming all summer long. And really immersed himself into fly fishing and having adventures on these different rivers. So it made for a great podcast. I can't wait to share that one with you guys. But a lot of good things in the works and good things coming up. Thanks, you guys, for the support. Let's get into this podcast. So this is my buddy Dillon Ness, Eastman's Flycast, and I'm your host, Brian Barney. Here we go.
Way more people in the world that fish than hunt.
Dude, that's what I think, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think too. Are you too loud or are you pretty good in your head?
I think I'm pretty good.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. I've got Dillon Ness by the house here. We're just jumping on real quick. We fished late last night. Thanks a bunch, dude. Your episode is one of my most popular episodes. Fishing those streamers, dude. You're a go-getter.
Yeah. No, thank you. No, shoot, I don't know even what to say about that. I am pretty flattered, I guess, because there's a lot more fishy dudes that you've had on than me. But no, pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that. You're definitely a fishy dude. You get the most out of Montana. But I really enjoyed fishing with you yesterday. It's fun throwing that dry fly.
It was, yeah. We totally sent it. That was a good one. Got off the water at dark, but in the bugs, and yeah, today I'm stoked for today. But
Yes. Well, you did it right. You planned 2 days of fishing. So you live in the Billings area and fish a lot of those rivers. And then we've been trying to get together to fish. And so you made the trip out. We did, yesterday we did an evening float. And then today we're going to do a morning float or a midday float. Let those bugs come off about 10 o'clock or so and we'll get on the water.
yeah, get a few cups of coffee in us, go shoot some arrows, and then yeah, hopefully our dues were paid yesterday.
Yes.
Staring into the tin foil, and then yeah, today we might have a little bit of shot at them.
Yeah, staring in the tinfoil. It's funny how you come up with these sayings as you're fishing, but yeah, it's like trying to stare into that sun when it reflects upon that water, and you just can't even see your fly out there or anything.
Yeah, no, it's like I was trying to do a dance. You landed on there, and then you're ducking down to try and get underneath it, or wait till it gets in a shadow, just like up, down, trying to find that little bit of foam. It's like, yeah, but no, pretty fun. We had some fish come up and try and get it.
We had some fish come up and try to get it. We didn't hit a day, so we hit like we were in the bugs and everything seemed like it was going to be on, but we just could not make those fish eat. So I think yesterday was a timing deal. This is a real finicky hatch, so we're fishing the salmon fly hatch. You guys have heard me talk about it a million times, but it's on my river right now, right on the Madison. And so chasing this hatch, I got it really good on the big hole, and then I've had 4 or 5 days that are just mediocre now on the Madison, so I'm really due for a good day.
Yeah, I think it's going to be today. And yesterday, I mean, the size of fish and the age class of fish that we had come up and take a peek at it, though, was pretty impressive.
Yes.
That one that you had come up in that goofy water, whew, that could have been a day maker right there. And well, to say I had a few chances would be underselling it, but
We had some fish eat it, but they weren't like. It's weird. Those fish, they eat it. Sometimes they eat it with reckless disregard and they just smash that thing or they sip it or they really want it. Yesterday they were really looking at it and poking at it just like they weren't quite sure that's what they wanted, but they were interested. We were moving fish, but they just weren't eating it that good.
yeah, it was like you'd feed it down that seam. And then what was kept happening to me was feeding it down that seam, and those fish would spin on it and track it downstream like they were hunting a streamer. And then I think they were just nosing it or just kind of bumping it like, hey, is this thing real? Like, because that one bug, when we switched to that more natural type bug, yeah, that's when I started turning on it, taking a look. But I just think I might have been a click off or two on some of them hook sets. So.
Yeah, well, that's all of us. Well, it's the nature of the beast. Like even fishing streamers or fishing dry flies, like you just miss some fish, and you also fly fishing. You just lose some fish. You know, you have them on and then they're off, or it seems like that classic where you hook set and feel him and have him and head shake, and then it's just like then he's off, or one jump and he's off. You know, it can happen so quick.
Yeah, and like as when they were spinning on it and chasing it down, they might have been eating it head first, hook on the backside type of deal too, because it was like, yeah, but no, super stoked for today. I cannot wait. It was fun initially when we were getting into some of that water where it's like, you were kind of scooting us over, and it was like the stuff that the A water that might not be getting hit because it's a little maybe more technical to crab claw over to that stuff. And gosh, it was so juicy. That's so sweet. With that river is like, I mean, the 100-mile riffle, I guess, but there is every inch of it. You feel like you're just waiting for it. Like it's going to happen. Yeah.
There's no frog water. There's no waiting for good water or fishing all day waiting for one bank. Like the whole thing is good. All of it is great holding water for trout. So it makes it such a fun river to fish because you're so engaged. I mean, you got to make yourself look up to the mountains because you just
every run is one that could hold a big fish in it.
Oh yeah, and we were fishing that cold, soft, or that edge, that seam edge off the bank, and then when those people would float by, they were even clipping some fish out in the middle. It's like, yeah, they could be anywhere, but it's just hunting that the water that we like to fish, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're right. When we'd pull over and kind of take a reset and chill out for a second and look around, it was just like, oh my gosh, this is so gorgeous.
Oh, it's just a great way to see this valley. But you're right. So we've had the high water that pushes them to the edges and in the banks where you're really in all the weeds and grass and brush. But it seems like this Madison now has like it's inside its banks and it's lowered where it's still like a good flow, but it's not that high water. And it seems like those fish, like they'll sit on a cut bank and on the edge or under the sticks in the right run. But just like you were saying, they almost want to be off that shelf of deep water. And I think they're getting into that colder water in there. So a lot of them are just a touch out in those seams where that water deepens up and gets cold right in there. It seems like that's where those fish are sitting.
Yeah, and I feel like that's where we had the most opportunity was in that stuff. But then, like that one fish you had eat, and that it was in some goofy water. It's just constantly, not fishing in the past. That really like the way that you said that, because if you get fishing in the past on this deal, fishing back behind you,
Yeah.
you're just missing everything that's coming up, and it's then you're just playing catch up the whole time. So it's looking down and hunting that that cold water, that shelf, or maybe that alpha water, that bucket. But yeah, you definitely, it's tough. I mean, the tinfoil made it a little tough. Had to fish in the past a little bit, but you gotta stay looking downstream,
Yes.
throwing these big bugs so you can hit that prime water and just let her drift through it.
That's where you're most effective, isn't it? When you're looking in front of you for that good water. Yeah, fishing in the pass is like fishing behind the oar blade, and you're just seeing it coming, and you're trying to get that shot back up and under something, and there could be a fish there for sure. But the whole time you're doing that, then like you say, you're playing catch up, or you're missing that really good water out in front, and it's tough not to do. But it is a management of trying to hit those runs and hit them right. And a lot of the runs you hit perfect, where it's like, yep, I got the best part of that run. And then sometimes you go by some pretty good water and you think, I could have fished that better, or I could have made a better cast in there, or a better drift, or but yeah, it's a fun game to play. And we were so on it yesterday. So this is a finicky hatch, and it all has to do with water temperature. And so these bugs are on a 4-year cycle. And then when the water temperature gets right, they crawl out onto the grass and onto the rocks, onto the wood. Remember yesterday by the wood, we were trying to target that.
Yep.
And then they hatch out, they fly up, they mate, lay their eggs in the water, and then it's another cycle. And so, this hatch moves its way up, but it's really finicky to be in the right part. So yesterday, we did our due diligence, and we put ourselves right in the hatch. But the problem is we put on at 4 or 5 o'clock, and I think those fish started to slide over and eat as it got later. Like they go into the deeper water and kind of hold as all these boats are going down. The bugs aren't, all over the place, and then they slide over in the evening and eat. And so, I think our problem yesterday was our timing. Is we put in right in the heart of the hatch, but we were right like 4 or 5 o'clock when there was still a lot of boats on. It was middle of the day. The sun was high, no shadows or anything. And so we were in the bugs, but the fish hadn't seen enough bugs to be keyed in on them yet. And then as we floated down the first 4 or 5 miles, really in the bugs, and we got some eats and things. But then we got below the hatch for like the good part of the evening when they really started to slide over and eat them. We were too low on the hatch. We should have done it opposite, where we put in up above and we were kind of out of the bugs. And as it got later in the night, we floated into the hatch. So, but every day you're just trying to learn and take in that whatever the river's giving you and trying to adapt to it. So I think today, we got a really good plan to find some of those bigger fish.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to today. But yeah, you're right. Yesterday, it would be just a hot bank, fish looking up, fish chasing it down, and then it was like, yeah, you're right. When we got to just prime time, we got out of them. So today, I think our plan, I think we're going to have a darn good chance at them today. So
it's all about fishing these bugs, and sometimes you get too low on it and the fish are gorged, or they've already been fished a lot of salmon flies too, and so they've seen them. And so it's always better to be higher on the hatch. I feel like try to be in front of it a little bit. So that's what we're going to do today. We've got our information from yesterday, And then I just got a good network of friends, where I'm really fortunate where we give each other reports, and so you can kind of piece together information. So hopefully put us in the right place. There's a lot of big fish in this river, and it's like you fall in love with certain sections of it, but I've seen every section of this river go off. It's just like finding where that hatch is and that timing's right, where you get there at the right time, the hatch is going off, and every big fish will be laying in every one of those runs looking for them.
Oh man, yeah, that's what we were talking about yesterday. Is like I wondered just how many fish we floated that bug over the top of. It was like, oh my goodness, I cannot wait to see one of those big browns just come up and nose it and just take it down with him. Oh my goodness.
It's going to happen today for sure.
Yeah.
So there's two schools of thought. You get out early and you float down in front of the boats. And so we opted to go like mid-morning. And I really think mid-morning, it's like fishing that hatch. So at like 10 o'clock, those bugs are going to just start to crawl and fly around. We saw so many in the grass and in the brush yesterday. So, like, I think we're going to put ourselves right in the heart of the hatch. And once they start flying around, landing on the water, I think those fish are really going to key into them. So, should be fun. I want to show you some of those. Our browns out here, like, it's not a lot of deep water, and so they get real, like, silver sides and still have that yellow color and the good spots and things, but they're just beautiful fish and real heavy. You saw the bug life yesterday. It's crazy.
Goodness.
And we probably should have tied on a caddis yesterday. We saw a lot of fish eat caddis.
Yeah, if we would have tied on a caddis yesterday, we might have wrecked them. They all might have been 8 inches, but yeah.
Well, that's why we didn't do it,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Is we're targeting these bigger fish, and
Yeah.
And me and you have caught enough fish where one good fish makes my day, and so I just want to keep targeting those bigger fish. That's why I like to fish streamers and big dry fly hatches, and really target those bigger, older fish. But we saw quite a few fish eat caddis yesterday, and those caddis are actually pretty big. We may have surprised ourselves at some of the heads that were coming up eating those things.
Yeah, we might have. And what we probably could have done, because they were probably 14s yesterday, some 16s and some 14s.
Yeah.
Because there were some big caddis.
I would say 14s, like maybe even touching on 12. Some of those
they
things.
were big.
Yep.
And yeah, size it up even a little bit, like maybe almost a tractor style. Yeah, we might have. Who knows? Maybe that's something we can put in our back pocket for today if things get a little weird midday. Try it out, but.
That's what my buddy Polson always teases me when you fish those like small salmon flies.
Mm-hmm.
He says they're probably eating that thing for a caddis anyways, because like you say, some of those things are size 12. So if you're fishing like a size 8 or a size 10 salmon fly, they probably eat it for a salmon fly or eat it for a big caddis too.
Oh yeah. The bug life though is insane.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were. I mean, when we pulled over that one time, I had a salmon fly crawling on me. You had one, caddis in your face, just like. There was those mayflies. I don't know what they were, but yeah, it was just like, holy smokes. It's just an absolute bug buffet.
Yeah, you can see why these fish get big, but they have to do so much of their feeding in the summertime.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and I think they just get to be, there's a lot of pressure in boats on the Madison, and it can fish really good middle of the day too if it's on, but gosh, I just think those evenings are so key. Those evenings are sure fun to fish, but yeah, we'll see what happens. I get out there. It sure is fun to get a couple days on the river with a good buddy. Like, that's a fun way to see that river is out of that drift boat.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, totally. That float we did last night. I'm excited for this one today, being a little bit higher. Mm-hmm. It's fun to see. Yeah, you almost have to stop every once in a while and just take a look around, because it's like you're floating through some amazing country. That's like, I can't believe I haven't ventured this way more. Holy smokes. But no, I'm excited for today, and hopefully we can just start moving them around a little bit.
Well, there's so much good water out there to explore, and there's so many secrets left. Like, even in Montana with so many fly fishermen, there's so many secrets left. Like with the still water, like I've really been getting into that and talking to guys about that, the sight fishing, the still water. And then, like, man, you got good rivers right around your place, like where you live in Billings, and so you'll travel to fish out there, but man, you got some dynamite fishing. You've been getting into some good fishing this summer.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that's tough. It's like you kind of like to focus on stuff that's, closer to you, because that's the water that you can spend more time on, when you get to learn it. And I've started fishing some different systems, like we've been talking, and it's like you just learn a little bit every time. But if once you start broadening, and I love fishing all over Montana. I mean, don't get me wrong, but it's like if you really start focusing in on different opportunities right around you, then you can really start to learn them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that spot I've been fishing up north. It's just like started throwing pike flies, and all of a sudden they go wild on them, and it's like, who would have thought? So it's just like, but
No kidding. So that's why you got those pike flies that you got riding around that you were showing me yesterday.
Yeah.
God, those trout are loving those pike flies, and they're probably different than what everybody's throwing too.
Totally different. Yeah, totally different. Because I went and I was throwing, my normal stuff, dungeons and buggers and that, and dead drifting it, doing, whatever, just fishing a creek, and then it's like, pull out that. I was having a decent day, but I was like, God, there's got to be some next level fish in this thing, and had a big old chartreuse and white one, that one that I was showing you yesterday. Throw that thing in there, and oh my goodness, they absolutely came alive. It was, in fact, I hooked the best brown that I've hooked probably in 2 years, and lost him in a log jam, but ate it right at my feet. Oh my goodness, like the one that you want. But
ate it right at your feet. You get to see the eat and everything.
Oh yeah, I was literally about to pull it out. I was wading, and I fishing upstream, and it's undercut bank, and so I was fishing it down to me. And I was like, it's one of those times where it's like almost awkwardly close, and fly line right at the tip, and it's like, I was just like, I'll just let it dangle. Oh, there he is. And he just smoked, rod's length away. Yeah, and then just blew up. Oh, it was awesome. Wish I could have touched him, but so I was telling you, it's like, it was one of those days where it's like, I couldn't get anybody to go. And so I was up there by myself, but it was absolutely just epic. And it was like one of those deals where you're just like, gosh, you want somebody there with you to experience it, but it's almost kind of a sacred thing that you feel like you're just out there and you're just in it. You're in the zone. All the water is yours, and it's just like, oh my goodness, I found the ticket here.
There is nothing better.
Yeah.
How cool. So that pike fly, it's sleek too. So it must be like, it doesn't hold a lot of water, so you can still cast it. You casting it with like a 6-weight, 7-weight?
7, yeah.
7-weight?
Yep.
Gosh dang it. And then it's long and really sleek. Pike fly, it's an articulating. It's got 2 hooks on it, but that tail still hangs off. It's got to be like a 5-inch fly, 6-inch fly?
Probably 6, because it's actually triple articulated when you look at it, because you got that front hook, then you got the back hook, but then they have an articulation on the backside.
Oh.
But I think you're right. It's sleek, and it's not synthetic. There's some synthetics in it, but it's like foxtail or bucktail and all that, and I just don't think it holds a ton of water. And it's super easy to cast. But yeah, I think the sleekness of it, the profile being that big, because if you throw something that big that has a profile to it, you're fishing a bug that most people would love to catch, and so it's like, but that's why that pike fly is just something different. And yeah, I'm gonna start giving them a little more opportunity in the water.
I would say.
Yeah, they.
God, I had a good fish come. You talk about fishing, wade fishing with a streamer. Like you got to learn how to work water, and sometimes you're fishing across from you. But some of those big cut banks where you can't cross the river or during the high water, you end up throwing like up in that bank that's on that same side as you, and then stripping down. And I missed a really good one this year where I was stripping down, and the fish turned on it and rolled, and I ran out of line to my rod, and ended up pulling it like right out of his face or whatever. I just hit my mic as I was setting the hook on my rod, on my false rod, but he came at me, and it was just a great big one, and he turned around and came at me, and then I just ran out of room and pulled it out, and he never got it, or I never got him hooked. But that is exciting when you can see him like that. I can't imagine. You said the biggest fish you hooked all year. You've got some big fish. Like it had to be a monster brown you had on that pike fly.
Yeah. It was a monster. Yeah, it was a monster. And I saw everything. He was right there. Like, I saw his entire big kype. Just like he was the one. Yeah, he was the one. Super cool color. He was honestly different colored than a lot of those fish that I've been catching. He was like, not orangey, but like that. He was just a darker. He wasn't that buttery yellow. He had like a darker tint to him. Just, yeah. Oof. I'll be back. I'm going back for him.
Well, and some of these systems, like, this isn't like a giant system here. You fish a lot of giant water, but this is a smaller system. And, I've been fishing some smaller systems and doing really good this spring as well. It is fun to wade fish up those things. And with the streamer, you don't really sit and work a run for a long time. I throw one drift in there, and then after that, I've covered that water now I'll work a run down. So I'm going to throw a drift there. I'm going to throw another one, work my way downstream or work my way upstream, work my bank line, the far bank line, like anywhere there can be a fish, but I'm just running one cast there. Strip, 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 one cast there, and then work that water. But you end up covering a lot of miles of river that way because you're not sitting working a run with a dry fly trying to work every stretch where that fish can be. He's either going to eat it in the first chance you put it in there or he's not, and you got to keep moving looking for that fish that is going to eat it. So it's a different style of fishing, but you cover a lot of water, and the ones you do see are the payoff. They're just those great big brown trout or rainbows that you're looking for.
Oh, yeah, and you're exactly right. It's like, if he's going to eat it, it's probably going to be on the first cast that you make in there. That's what I always think is you got to make the first one absolutely money because that's the one that he's probably going to eat if he's going to eat it. But I do the exact same thing. It's like pull up on some water, and if I'm streamer fishing, it's like I think he's going to eat it. It's like you just have those feelings or, just the knowledge to where it's like I think he's probably there. If he's not there, he might be here. And it's like you run it through there as well as you can. I might change angles once. Like I might come up and fish it down and across, or vice versa.
Oh,
and
that's smart.
Give him one look at each if he's there. But yeah, you can cover some absolute miles. There's been so many times it's like you get done with the day and it's like, holy moly, I've got a ways to go back through this riverbank.
It's like elk hunting, right? Like how far is my truck back there? How many times do I need to cross the river and get back? But so fun. Yeah, and can be frustrating because you don't – I mean, when it's on, and there's a lot of fish chasing. But a lot of times you throw it in that money spot and you get that strip and the fish you want turns on it and he comes for it and he may even eat it or spin on it or what – and you miss him and then the game's over.
Game's over.
You can't get them to eat it again. You can't get them interested. It's like you need the element of surprise and you get that one shot at them and then – either you mess it up or the fish doesn't quite get it in his face or whatever the case is. Game's over. You got to go to the next hole and find another one. But it can be so frustrating that way. But you were saying that you have done really good streamer fishing by going down, fishing really hard that streamer, and you miss a big fish or you roll a big fish, and you say you take note of where that spot is. And so then you know that big fish lives in that run or in that hole, and then the next time down through, instead of fishing to the bank to that fish, you'll pull off, and then you'll really go down and work that big hole. And I like working big holes, like swinging through big holes, where you can really toss it out, start from the top, and you swing it at like quartering 45 to you, and you swing it through there, or first I'll throw it kind of straight across or even upstream and strip it back to me, like giving it little pulses and strip it across from me. But then as I start throwing 45, I'll just swing it through there and maybe give it a pop every now and again. And then you can take a couple steps down and swing it again. But you can almost work that entire run that way. So you're swinging your bug every 2 foot of that money run down through. So you'll mark those fish, and then you'll get out on the bank. You'll work that bank. And then you'll end up hooking that big fish that came for it last time you were out.
Yeah, that is exactly right. Probably,
that's targeting big fish, man.
It is, and it's like you're saying, in the boat, you'll roll them, but it's like when you're in the boat, you're cruising by them, and it's like there's not very much opportunity. Yeah, sometimes I like to anchor up, and then I'll go back and try and hit him, but it's like just what we said. It's like you roll a big fish and he misses it, or you clip him. It's like the gig's up. So I like to take note of it, and if at all possible, that try and come back the next day, and then I anchor up well above it, get out and weight it, and because a lot of them sneaky little back channels or goofy spillovers, but it's like he might not be in the same spot, but it surprises me how many times he's within 15 yards probably, but I start well above where I had the chance at him. And that this is kind of the exception to the rule of my, cast, walk down, cast. It's like I will fish that thing through, and if I really think conditions haven't changed, I'll go back to the boat, switch something out, change the fly, and I've caught some pretty darn good ones on like the third bug switch, running it through the same water, and finally found him. Like I don't know what it was, if I just finally ticked him off enough to where he came out and chased or whatever, but yeah, I definitely take, and that helps me when I'm swinging in the wintertime too. It's like, if had a lot of luck here, missed some fish or seen some fish, and then it's like, go back to those spots because obviously that's a water for big fish, and yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do. I mean, granted, you don't like missing them out of the boat, but if you take note of it and go back, it's like every once in a while you can find them again.
That is so smart. Yeah, that is so smart. That's really targeting big fish. Well, that's why you catch so many big ones, is taking note, learning where they live, and then fishing right to them. I like what you said about the bug change, too. There's certain colors that you even if you're catching fish on a streamer, it might not be the color that's really getting them. I like that color change. And same thing for swinging for steelhead or whether you're trying to catch browns. Gosh, I like that. Running your way all the way through that big hole with your bug and then switching colors. And you're right, a lot of times on that color switch, you end up catching fish. You just find the right color they want to eat, or the light hits it right, or good representation. And a lot of times you only get one chance at those fish, but if you didn't eat it or didn't move on it and then you throw the right color on, you might just get a reaction out of that thing.
Oh yeah, there's one last summer in August, and it wasn't like you're just clear water or even green. It was kind of sandy, and but the fishing was good. But it was one of those days where if you take off your shades and you look at what you're fishing, you're like, it's not as green as I thought or as sandy as I thought as you put your shades back on. But I was running through the spot because the day before I had missed this fish, and I think I started with black because I was thinking black might really cast a shadow in this water. But I think it was a little overwhelming. The sun was high, it was 85 degrees. Like, ran it through there, switched it up, and I was fishing a dungeon that had a little bit bigger profile. It was kind of one that I home tied, and so I switched it, and then I changed the color, same bug, but then I went to like a sleeker profile, like we were talking about, and it was a home invader, so single hook, really tapered hard, and yellow in the sand, and that's what ended up moving him, and it was like. Yeah, and absolutely lost his mind on it. Same cast. I mean, I was making the same casts, everything. But when that yellow, little bit sleeker bug, a little bit smaller, when that thing hit the water, that fish absolutely lost its mind. That was probably one of my favorites of all time, probably just because it was like I had to put in the work for him. But yeah, it's I would say probably a very large portion of the bigger fish that I've caught, are fish that I've missed out of the boat and came back for. To be completely honest. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Man, there's nothing like seeing those fish eat. And like the dry fly that we're fishing right now is fun, but that streamer, a lot of it is looking inside the water for what's chasing it. Last night, we got below the hatch and you started throwing a streamer. You actually got some pretty good action. You got some fish to eat that thing, but you just don't. Streamer fishing is a low odds game. You turn and roll a lot of fish and see a lot of fish and see them chase it, but they're tough to get the hooks in. You even had a couple grab it last night, but you just feel them or they might be there and then they're gone. Yeah. It's a low odds game, but you sure are hunting for those next level fish, which is why I love doing it.
Oh yeah, and like say on the Madison, like what I was saying yesterday, it's like it's so crystal clear. It's like the best and the worst thing ever because you can see everything happening. Like I don't know, I pulled the bug out of some fish's mouths yesterday on the dry and the streamer because it's like you turn him and he's like, oh gosh, there he is. Like, and you get so juiced up. It's like, okay, man, I gotta calm down, let him eat it, and then give it to him. Like, let it happen, But yeah, that I'm excited for today to throw that bug. It looks like it's a little bit overcast in that, but
dude, it looks so good.
Yeah, it looks so good. But yeah, seeing everything is, yeah.
High def, so
High
fun
def.
to look inside and see those fish rolling. It's like so exciting. I did the same thing yesterday. I had one fish try to eat my bug, and he missed my bug. My bug was still floating where you should have, like, controlled scenario, let it keep drifting, let him eat it again. And I set the hook on a miss-eat. Like, he didn't even get my bug, and I set my hook. Like, sometimes you're just so jacked up.
Yeah.
And same thing with that streamer. Sometimes when you see him, you just pull them right out of their face. That strip set is about the best you can do, is really pull hard on them and not try to lift that rod tip. But every fish is different, and they're just tough to get the hooks in sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and you're exactly right. And it's one of those things, I think you just have to have your chi right,
Yes.
and be in the moment
Yes.
and not think about it. Like, if you see it and you're feeling it, give it to them, because it's like then you could be half, 2 miles late, to setting the hook on something if you're really trying to be patient. So I think, yeah, you just got to be feeling it. Just let it rip.
That flow state again. If you think too much about it, it can get inside your head. Like even missing fish or losing fish or whatever the case is, if you can just let that like water off a duck's back. You just let it roll off you, and you just keep doing your job and fishing and keep thinking. But it's like when you try to change things up with your hook set, or you try to like overthink it. It doesn't work right, and you end up missing more, getting more frustrated. You just got to keep throwing that thing, and in flow state, you just keep reacting to the fish. We've caught enough fish in our days. We've seen it happen enough times. Like maybe it's the way they're eating it, and heck, maybe I did make a mistake here or there, but you can't overthink it. You just got to get the next one.
Yeah, it's hard to be perfect out there on the water, and it's like one of those things that, to be honest, I don't even think about trying to be perfect on hook sets or whatever, because it's like, you know what, realistically, if you fish it hard enough, you're not gonna be perfect out there. So it's like, just be in the moment and not thinking about it, just having a good time. Like, that was the best part about yesterday. A little breezy, and like, yeah, we were fishing it hard, but it was just a heck of a time, and it was just like an absolute riot.
We were having a good time. We did about a 5-hour podcast on the river that we didn't record. Like, there's nothing funner than. I love to fish and I love to hunt so much. So, yeah, you're fishing for brown trout, and then the conversation wanders to hunting elk and hunting mule deer, and then, we're talking fishing steelhead and then big browns, and so much great conversation on the river. But, yeah, it's just a good time, man. Float down lose yourself in that dry fly throwing that thing, and there's just nothing better. There's no better way to spend the day, a summertime in Montana, than drifting down a river looking for him.
No. And thank God we get to do it again today. I cannot wait for it. Holy smokes.
Oh, I know it. It's killing us. We got to get out and shoot the bow and, maybe get a quick run in. We're trying to hold ourselves off from the morning float. Guides put in at 8 o'clock. And so the early guides are 6 o'clock, late guides are 9 o'clock or so. So we should be about perfect. We're going to try to put in behind the guides, but in the bugs. So the bugs get crawling about 10, 11 o'clock. We're going to try to throw on at 10 o'clock. So hopefully a lot of the guide boats have gone down. We're going to throw in behind them, give those fish a little break, and then hopefully they're seeing those bugs land, and we're going to come into the hatch right in the heart, 10 to 2 o'clock, when those bugs are just fluttering. So, yeah, I think we got a good chance to hit it today. We'll have the streamer rod in there again, but I think we're going to be all dry flies today, and we're going to get even today. I think we're going to see some nice ones.
Yeah, that's my favorite part about fishing, is the next day is going to be the day.
Yeah, the anticipation, right?
Yep.
It's part of the fun. It's looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So, well, dude, thanks so much for making it over, jumping on a quick podcast this morning. I say we shoot these bows and get out on the water, and I'll update these guys how we do. Like, you talk so much about the future, and then it's nice to come on the ending and go, yep, we got him. We nailed it just like we thought. Or, oh, no, we got our butt kicked again. Gosh, we went too high on it, or whatever the case. But, dude, it's so fun to have you on the podcast, and so fun fishing with you. So, yeah, we're going to have a riot today.
Can't wait, man.
All right.
All right, guys, that's a wrap. Fun conversation with Dillon. Just kept saying to each other, oh, we're killing him, bro. Like that guy that went by that was catching him so good. But we did get a really good day of fishing on that second day. A bunch of laughs. Had to sit through a gnarly lightning storm. I believe that was second day. We were about a couple miles from the takeout, and just this huge dark cloud came over, and so kind of rode out a storm, which was good for both of us. I know Dillon has got a early season high country mule deer tag, the same as I do, and we spend a lot of time riding out these storms, so always good to get a few under our belt. And the river can be just as dangerous as the high country as far as storms and lightning, as you're trapped on that water, and it's just always good. Like, as I'm floating down the river, if a big storm's coming, I don't want to continue to float, as that boat is the highest thing in the water. And when that hail starts coming down, and a lot of times there's these huge winds on the front of these storms that, I mean, you can get gusts up to 100 miles an hour, which in a drift boat, floating down the river can be pretty dangerous, as well as that hail. And I just don't mess with that lightning. And it's pretty flat in my valley, but if I see a storm coming, I pull off, and I try to get below a big bench or some higher spots, and I like to get in a little group of trees, or sometimes that's just a little group of willows, and then just ride out those storms and let them pass, and then get back on the water. And it'll kind of shut down the fishing a little bit, or it can. But you know, that's the option. And I think I've almost rode out as big or bigger storms on the river than I have, you know, in the high country as well. And I just don't mess with that lightning with my rod up high in the air or anything like that. I don't need to become a barbecue, that's for sure. But we rode out a pretty good storm together, just had a riot with him. Dillon is just a great guy, and I can't thank him enough for being on the podcast, sharing information. The guy is a big fish slayer. Gosh, he catches a lot of big fish. So a lot of respect for what he does. And, you know, I'm always learning too. I told you about how we started, you know, we're fishing salmon fly, fishing big dries, and then, you know, we're not in the hatch, and so we started throwing streamers and caught some off a streamer. But it was so interesting. Dillon is a, you know, I'm not going to say he's a streamer specialist, as he's a fly fishing specialist, but he loves to fish streamers. He did this move I had never seen before, and it was highly productive. It was this killer move. So I'm learning, you know, just fishing with different people that are good fishermen, you just pick up so much information. But Dillon would throw towards the bank, and so we were stripping streamers back to the boat. So you throw it to the bank line, and then you strip back. And, you know, you can get your streamer to go deeper and sometimes a really good retrieve if you throw up back and behind the boat, and then you're stripping, you know, downstream or down current, and it'll sink a little bit deeper, as opposed to throwing in front of the boat and pulling. Then you're pulling against that current, and that streamer will ride higher. So we're throwing to the bank and throwing this streamer, and Dillon had this move that I had never seen before. So what he did, he'd throw to the bank, and then he'd throw this big downstream mend in it, and then he'd start stripping back. And what it did is it created this loop in the line. So he throws the streamer, throws that downstream mend, and then when he starts stripping, that streamer swims down the current line, like right where those fish are laying. So your streamer just spends more time where those fish are laying in that current line. It's one little nuance to fishing these things, but it's definitely something I picked up and learned. To throw to the bank, a big downstream min, and then start stripping, and it just swims down the seam of the water. It blew my mind, and it worked really effective, and just something new. Like you say, learning something every day. So absolutely love fly fishing. I'm going to try to get out here for some good fall fishing. I miss a lot of this season as I bow hunt a lot, but I can't wait to be fishing this fall. And then winter and spring, we still got some really good fishing in front of us, and I still want to get in on a couple of these good hopper days. So who knows, maybe I can get my stuff done today and go take my dog out, and we can go walk some bank line and throw some hoppers and see if we can't turn up one of those big browns. But absolutely love that salmon fly hatch. It was a great season. Got my butt kicked here and there, but also found some really good days. So just so much fun, you know, living out west and being able to take advantage of the outdoors and of fly fishing. There's just nothing. It is pure fun. And so, yeah, I just can't thank you guys enough for supporting this project, this podcast. And, you know, downloading the podcast is the biggest thing, you know, having an audience that's listening in. So can't thank you guys enough. And with that, I'll check in with you next week.